All right, welcome everybody. Feel free to chat me if you're having any issues here. I'll try to check the chat as we work through. If you have questions, I'll try to get to them, but this is going to be, I would say, at least an hour of work, and I'm just honored that you have decided to spend the time today, the commitment today to show up and work with me on our fourth quarter here. And this new admit's going to be exciting because I've got to admit everybody in here while I'm trying to talk. So we'll hopefully get everyone in as they start to come through. All right, so here is what we're going to work on today. We're going to work through the process of setting your Q4 targets, and I'll work you through the process of the PDF, and I hope everybody has the PDF available to you. If it's in your member area, for those of you that aren't members of BeLife, I will make it available to you. If you don't have it, just chat me your email, and I'm seeing if I can send you. Doesn't look like I can send a file here like the normal webinar. So if you don't have the PDF for the target setting process that we use at Bankcard Life and that I go through, just chat your name and email, and I will email you out the PDF so you have it. So we're going to work through that process today, and this is what it looks like. And it works you really from the beginning of the entire process of how we're going to set our targets for Q4 and what I do on a pretty consistent basis. And that's what we're going to work through here together. So let's kick off. So great to have you here. If you want to take the assessment this quarter, you can go to bankcardlife.com/assessment. That will give you some prompting questions about where you were last quarter, where you're at today, and where you want to go. This is in your member area. If you're a member, if you are a member on here, please make sure you join our new Facebook group. I know we're in Workplace, but we're shifting over to Facebook. A lot of people have Facebook or in Facebook more often, so we'll have much more engagement, I'm hoping, in the new Facebook group. So go ahead and join if you're a member. If you're not a member and you're on here as a guest, then don't worry about joining the Facebook group. Keep in mind, members, we have all the CC Sales Pro training available for Bankcard Life. So James Shepard has made all that available. If you have not taken advantage of that, also contact support. I will give you the email and info later in the webinar, and we can get you set up with your own custom login to get into CC Sales Pro and James Shepard's content. So all that's included with your membership. And the rhythm this quarter, so what we're going to do today is we're going to work on our target setting, and you can choose how you want to play this game, right? If you're good to go and you've got your system for production set up and you've got a whole system every week that's working for you, then maybe just today is the only thing that you need to do. You want to get some clarity. You want to set some strategic things up for this fourth quarter. You want to set some tactics and actions together. And we spend this hour or two today. You take another hour or so, you set your quarter up, and you're ready to go. For those of you that want support and accountability in the member area, it'll be the same rhythm that we worked through last quarter. So I'm going to do weekly lessons or post. You'll get your email Saturday morning with a short video from me. I'll pick a topic that I think is important for that week. We'll talk about production again, systems, discipline, habits, KPIs, whatever I kind of feel like talking about each week. And then I'll do that same lesson. You'll get the video, and then I will expand on that lesson every Wednesday in a live webinar, and then we can do Q&A that Wednesday as well. So each week you'll get the email, you'll get a video from me. We'll work on that on Wednesday, and then we'll have other interviews that I'll do throughout the quarter. I've got already a couple lined up We might do some physical challenges, smoothie challenges, or some things like that. And certainly we want you to interact in the community. So, you know, the whole concept, and I'll review it here in a moment when I go to the tablet, is that we want to make sure that we are keeping ourselves accountable for producing the results that we commit to each and every quarter, right? So we throw annualized thinking out the window. We set our targets for the beginning of the year for the year, but we get rid of that annualized thinking and we chunk it down to quarterly segments that I'm calling sprints now. And when I do this process, and I did it last weekend, we want to really get intentional, and we want to set the intention for ourselves of what we're looking to produce here after spending this time brainstorming, reviewing, looking where we need to correct, and coming up with new targets, right? So we need to set the intention of what we're trying to create and the type of person, the type of man or woman that we're trying to become. And we talk about that across the 4 dimensions, which I'll dive into here briefly in a moment. So the intention today for me is I want you to leave here with some clarity, right? Some clarity around where you've been, which we can't change, right? The past is the past, but we can learn from the past. Some clarity about where you are today, and some clarity about where you want to go. This quarter, in my opinion, is an extremely important quarter to set us up to finish out 2020 and to set us up and create big stuff in 2021 for ourselves, our families, our teammates, our businesses. I believe once we get through this virus, it's going to take longer, but there's a lot of pent-up demand, and I think we have a lot of opportunity next year to really create and build our portfolios and build our businesses. So I want you to have some clarity for this next quarter, setting you up for 2021. Then I want you to strategically have some brainstorming around the strategy. So there's a strategy for the quarter. There's a strategy that we put in place in January when we all sat down and did our yearly targets of what we wanted to create in 2020, right? So our quarterly strategies feed into our yearly targets. Now, a lot of that has been disrupted this year, right? And we've been exposed in a lot of areas around our business, our relationships, and our lives. And we've learned some lessons, I hope. And we need to know that we've got to have these strategies in place, but be flexible and ready to make any changes that and adaptions and course corrections that we need to make. But we want to have a strategy around the quarter that feeds into your yearly targets, if you've readjusted those, so we can hit the yearly targets, and that will feed into 2021. And then you might have a long-term strategy, a 3-year plan, a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, wherever you're at in your current business journey and in your life. You know, you might be planning an exit strategy. You might be planning retirement. You might be planning getting a large tranche of money to reinvest and grow the business. You might be planning on hiring people. You know, whatever that strategy is, we want to make sure that this quarter strategy feeds into the long-term strategy and vision of what you want to create. And then we want to have some clear actions and tactics that you can deploy to hit your quarterly targets, right? And what I see a lot of people do is when they think strategy, they're not really thinking strategy, they're thinking tactics, right? What do I need to do to make enough money this month to go on a vacation or pay my bills or grow by X? You know, they're not thinking long-term strategically. They're not thinking of how all the parts of their business work together. They're not thinking about creating a foundation here from a place of which they can grow their business and their enterprise, about duplicatable results, about creating models around their business that can easily be reframed, duplicated, and expanded, right? So think strategy, a little longer term. Think of what you're doing today that feeds into the long-term plan. And then we'll talk about tactics and actions that you can take that are things tactically. And when we talk about our daily routine and all the things that we work on in the group, tactically, what you can do daily, weekly, monthly, that get you the results you want for the quarter. So clarity, strategy, actions are what we're trying to get. And let me just review the problem that I see briefly, and I won't spend a lot of time on this, but when I work with people, and not only with people, but even in my own life, there are these gaps, right? That we've got to be brutally honest about and be able to be willing to open ourselves up to see these gaps, right? So there's a gap between your current reality and your desired reality, right? That just means that we want to go from point A to point B, and the gap is that area between, right? In our life, our living is about closing that gap. And for some people, the gap can be so wide that they don't even see the possibility of closing the gap. And for other people, it might be a narrow, tiny gap where all you have to do is make some tweaks, make some adjustments, and you're there, right? So it's all about recognizing these gaps and then getting that clarity, that strategy, and that action to close them, right? But a lot of people have limits that they placed upon themselves, and this gets into belief systems and some of the other training that we've done, but they have a limited mindset. They might have limited motivation. Their strategy isn't where it needs to be. They have limited skill sets. That's probably one of the easiest ones that you can improve and grow, or the tactics that they're deploying are not working in their business. They're doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So they don't really have a system for producing consistent results. And if any of you are in the trainings that we do, I'm really about producing consistent results over time. I'm not about hitting a home run and swinging for the fences every time. And my belief is, and I've really realized this in my life after 25 years of being in this business, is that when I consistently hit singles and doubles and I get on base, then I consistently produce results that last, right? And those results are more money, more connection with my family. My wife of 26 years, our anniversary is tomorrow. We're going to be celebrating 26 years of marriage. She still puts up with me, but I have a great connection with the kids. All these things that work together that we'll review here in a moment. And the other thing I notice in a lot of people is the habits and routines don't support the vision that they create for themselves. And this is a struggle for all of us, is releasing negative habits and creating positive habits. And every quarter I do a session on habit creation and routine. So a lot of this is recorded in your member area, and I'm going to revisit a lot of this quarter. And of course, you want to be rigorously honest with ourselves and see ourselves clearly about the reality of where we are today in our business and in our lives. So from that foundational point, that starting point of the truth, then we can really start to build something. But until we can actually look at ourselves in a truthful way and see ourselves for what we really are, what we truly are, and how we're showing up in this area of our life, it's really difficult to make those giant leaps of improvement because we're still living in a lot of denial about the actions we're taking. It's like saying every morning, I'm going to make 100 calls today, or I'm going to pick the phone up and make 50 calls. But we never pick the phone up and make the 50 calls. Every day there's a reason, an excuse, a challenge of why we can't pick up the phone and make the calls. So if you can't see yourself clearly that you're stuck in a place where you're unable to do what you say and commit you're going to do, you're still going to be living in denial, and you're still going to be taking the actions that block you from making the 50 calls, right? And we as human beings struggle with this. Some of us more than others in certain areas, and some of us don't struggle in one area and struggle in another. It's called being a human being. And when we want to try to grow our business, we've got to find out a way to get ourselves to take the actions that we need to take on a daily basis. And that gets back to having a plan and then building up those habits and those routines and really building the confidence in ourselves that we can get this stuff done, and really blowing up those disempowering beliefs and stories that we create about what's possible for us, right? So we want to enter today with the mindset of anything is possible, and we can create anything that we are willing to commit to truly doing. And I would challenge you to look at yourself, and if you've ever had something you really, really, really wanted, I will bet you that you pretty much did whatever you needed to do to get it, right? it's those areas where we commit to things that we really aren't all in, that we can easily make excuses about why, oh, I don't really need to do it that much, or I didn't quite get there. I'm not really willing to do what it takes. I like the idea of saying I want to accomplish that, or making X number of dollars, or growing my business to this place, but I'm really not willing, when it gets down to it, to doing the work. And you look at other areas where you thought, man, I really want that. You've got a burning desire to have that thing, or that relationship, or that person, or accomplish that target, and you did whatever it took. So we all have the capacity to do this. It's just getting clear about what we're really willing to commit to. So that's what I hope we do today. So I'm going to buzz through this very rapidly because I want to get to the tablet. I want to start us working on the session here. So the framework, the way that I look at all this is there's 6 domains: purpose, possibility, planning, power, production, and profit. We are now in the planning stage, so we can access power and access production in our businesses, and bear the fruits and enjoy the fruits of our profit, right? All this is in my book. Hopefully you guys got a free copy. I talk about it, and I talk about the 10 distinctions that are really 10 powerful distinctions that you can make between the successful and average and mediocre producers and the elite producers. And then we want to align these 6 domains across purpose and possibility, right? Your purpose is connected to the vision of who you want to become. Planning and power, daily rituals across the 4 dimensions of body, being, balance, and business. You have your weekly one thing, your one target, whatever you want to call it. The book, The One Thing, is a great book to read and work off of. And then we combine production and profit, where we're in the work, we're doing the work, where we are implementing the tactics that we have set out for ourselves, taking the actions, and then we're measuring and keeping ourselves accountability on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annual basis. So those is the framework around how I look at things across my business and my life. And it really comes down to these 4 dimensions of body, being, balance, and business. You can add dimensions if you want, but it's hard enough for me just to focus on these 4. And there's sub-dimensions within each one, but this is when you hear me talking, we will talk about body, being, balance, and business. So the process is, and it's laid out in your PDF, and that's what we're going to go through here in a second. I'm going to walk through the entire process with you. We are going to take 3 minutes on each area and brainstorm a little bit. Then you'll have a little homework, but you assess and review, right? That's the first thing that we want to do. We want to make sure we're being rigorously honest. Once again, it all begins from a place of honesty and the reality and the facts of where we are today. Not fiction or stories about where we are today. Where are we today? And I'll give you a great indicator of how you can tell where you are today in your business. And one of them is to look at your bank statement, right? The numbers do not lie. Look at your residual statement. Look at your bonuses and look at your bank statement. And that will tell you at least what you have coming in to your business. And I have worked with people in business. It's just amazing how they make up the numbers and really have these numbers set in their head. But when you look at paper, the numbers oftentimes are very, very different from the numbers that they have in their head. So I would just encourage you to take a look at those residual statements, look at your bank statement, and there's a harsh reality of where you're at. You're either in the fruit, the benefits of what you're doing, or you're in scarcity, right? And we have to do something about that scarcity to get you into the fruit of your efforts. And then we want to brainstorm and we'll set targets. We'll realize the cost of not accomplishing these targets. And then we want to make the true commitment about what you want to accomplish and what you want. Okay. So let's hop over here. I'm going to turn off the camera so we can pop over to the tablet. And let me see here if I can share my screen. All right, let me make this co-host. 1 second here. Okay. And let me share that. All right. So, we got somebody else coming in here. All right. So let's just take a quick review here. Let me move my table down now since you can't see me and I can write. So we're going to work across the 4 dimensions, right? Body, being, balance, and business. This could also be called your health, your, let's see, let's call this your faith, your finances, and your family. The 4 dimensions. You can call it anything you want, right? This is your label, whatever works for you. I like body, being, balance, and business. I get that from the those of you that are in me in the Warrior Challenge. That's the terminology that we use, that Garrett White uses, body, being, balance, and business, and I really like that. So we started 2020 with a vision of what we wanted to become, and you established a gap that we talked about earlier in these 4 areas, right? Across body, being, balance, and business. So at the beginning of the year, we said, this is where my body is, my health, my nutrition, my physical fitness. We looked at our being, our spiritual connectedness. We looked at balance, how we are showing up in our relationships, our children, our siblings, our family, our friends, our connectedness. And we looked at our business, and we looked at how our business was producing. My comment here is, if all these areas, it's like the spoke of a wheel, right? If all these areas are not at least moving in the same direction, they don't all have to be at the same at the same level, but if you sacrifice your being, your spirituality, your relationships for your business, I don't feel like that, for me, that I would be living the type of fulfillment and the type of life that I wanted to create, right? So when I look at things, I look at it through this lens of these 4 dimensions. And what I'm trying to do, and what we're trying to do every year, is not just make a lot of money. There's a reason and a why behind the money, right? There's these values and beliefs and these things that we believe to be true and things that we want to create. And we're trying to create what we call the have it all lifestyle, right? So we can have all these parts of our life working in tandem, and we're rising all together. So we're connected spiritually, whatever that is for you. We're connected in our relationships, our children, our spouses, our business, and our body. If we set big targets in our business, if our body and our energy levels aren't right, how on earth can we work and do the things we need to do to hit those targets, right? So what I've found for me is, when all these things are working in tandem and in a great way, And they might look like this, right? My body might be here, and I need to really move it up to here. My relationships might need a lot of work, right? My being or spirituality. My relationships might be up here. I'm doing great there, and my business might be up here, right? So when we do the review each quarter, we want to look at this thing, and if it was perfectly balanced in a circle, hey, you're doing absolutely wonderful, right? But most people's lives aren't perfectly balanced, right? We go through cycles of life. I'm at a cycle where all my kids are grown up. My wife and I are able to travel. We're able to do the things that we want to do. You know, we're in a great time of life in our relationship because we have a lot of flexibility. We have 3 beautiful grandchildren that we can enjoy, right? 15 or 20 years ago, it was a different story. You're raising teenagers, you're raising kids. So, you know, life changes and evolves and expands and grows in different ways. So you're going to have to look at your individual life and you plug it in based upon where you're at, and you focus on the things that you need to focus on to get yourself where you need to be. So my point is that we just finished this quarter, right? So before we launch into Q4, we want to take a look at Q3, and we want to give a hard look at how we were showing up in Q3. So if you set your targets across these 4 dimensions in Q3, we want to take a look at what were your results, right? Where were you exposed? I love that word because this virus has exposed a lot of people and a lot of businesses, me included, right? So it's exposed us from a business perspective in many areas, maybe our financial management, maybe being prepared for a black swan event. Maybe it's exposed us across having headcount that we didn't need to have, overhead that we didn't need to have, overhead that we could have had adjusted and not even needed to deal with if we were looking at our finances in the right way. Maybe it's exposed our lead generation, our marketing, our closing, our sales process, our operations. It's exposed us in many different ways. So my question would be, where have you been exposed in these 4 dimensions in the 3rd quarter? You know, did you commit to something across your body that you didn't get the result that you wanted? And if you didn't get the result that you committed to, why is that? It could be injury, or it could be you didn't do the work, right? So what we want to do is look at each one of these and see if there's a learning opportunity. I'm not here to beat you up. I can tell you right now, I missed my business target. And I had a certain target that I had hit for myself, a certain revenue number across a program that I was developing, and I missed it. And some of the things or the reasons why I missed it were out of my control, but the reality is that I missed it, right? And what I did when I went back and looked at Q3, and for me, these areas here were all on point. I hit everything that I wanted to hit in these 3 areas. Body, I had to adjust at the beginning of the year. My goal at the beginning of the year was to become a top 10 ranked singles player in Texas in the senior division at the 4-5 tennis level was my goal. But the virus completely shut down all the tennis in our state. So I readjusted my target for body, and I was able to hit that target. So last quarter, I course corrected and I readjusted, and I showed up pretty well in those areas. Now, business, I pretty much hit my revenue numbers, but one of the most important things I wanted to do, I missed. So when you're looking back and reviewing these areas and seeing where you're exposed in, right? And I would venture to say, the other challenges that I've seen, especially around balance, right? A lot of people have had challenges in this area because now their kids are home all day. Their wife or husband might be working from the house today. Their routines have completely been turned upside down. The stress levels have been doubled, right? You can't go to church. We couldn't attend church for months, so we were doing it online. But that was another change in your habits. So there's a lot going on, especially these last 2 quarters, that is going to expose the weaknesses maybe in your mindset, your disciplines, your habits, your activities, and the way you run your business, right? And we all know the challenges in the merchant processing business of not being able to go out and see merchants, having to shift to an online selling over the telephone, maybe generating leads a different way than you used to generate leads. And we'll kind of break that down in a minute. But, all this stuff you need to look at. And you need to not just look at it from a quarterly perspective, but what have I learned from Q3 that you can implement and change in Q4? But also, is there a major shift occurring in our business, a trend occurring in our business that you can ride through into 2021? And I would say there are some trends going on. We'll have to see after the virus, but I think there are some shifts occurring in the way payments are processed, the way merchants are set up, the way e-commerce is handled. There's a lot of different things going on in our industry, different products that can affect your livelihood and can also present some great opportunities for you. So the question would be, after you look at Q3, do you need to course correct, and where? So that's the first thing we want to do in the 90-day process. We review Q3. Do we need to course correct? What were my results? What were the lessons learned? Did I hit my weekly reviews? Right? Did you set weekly targets? These are all the things that I talk about, right? If you're new to the webinar, you may not know the system of production that I use, but we set this stuff up on a weekly basis, a daily basis. On Sunday, we review our week. By Sunday night or Monday morning, you have a plan for the week, right? And that feeds into your quarterly target. So, the big question is, are you on track for your yearly target, right? So how did you show up in Q3? What do you need to course correct? And are you on track for your yearly target? So I hope you're making notes. I hope you're writing all this down. I hope you're making some key points that you can think about and discuss with yourself or your accountability partner or your wife or your husband. I try to sit down each quarter. One of my goals across balance was to take my wife on a trip. We just were able to get back from 2 weeks in Mexico. I took my whole family the first week, all the grandkids, all my kids, everyone went the first week. The second week, I just spent with my wife, and we were able to look at where we at for the year, where we were at, what we were done, what we have going, what we want to try to accomplish as a family and as a team towards the end of the year. So, those are the type of things that you just have to take time out of your schedule to implement and to do on a consistent basis. So you've reviewed, and the next step is to start to brainstorm new targets for Q4. So you know what you need to correct, or you're going to do this later, right? If you're on track for the yearly goals that you set, or if your yearly goals need to be adjusted, go ahead and adjust them. You're the master of your plan, right? Adjust them. So what are your new targets for Q4? And the other question I would ask myself, and here's what I see happen to a lot of people too. They are selecting goals and targets that are not really their own. What do I mean by that? They're not things that they really, really want. They're things that they think they need to accomplish for someone else. It might be your tribe, your family. It might be your wife or husband. It might be what society tells you you need to do, right? Oh my gosh, I have to make $200,000 a year or I'll be a loser. I won't be accepted. I won't be able to do this or do that. You know, all that is somebody else's story laid upon you. It's not the story you're creating for yourself. So make sure when you look at Q4, you're really creating something that you really want for you, not for me. We're all different. The only competition I have is the guy that I look at in the mirror every morning that I get up and look at, right? I'm not competing against you. You're not competing against me. I'm not comparing myself against you. I am competing against me, and I want to get better. I want to improve. I want to grow, and I want to expand. So here's what we're going to do. You're going to get 3 minutes, and you're going to jot down and brainstorm. We'll spend a little bit more time on business, but you're going to jot down and brainstorm ideas of what you want to create around your body, your being, your balance, and your business. So we're going to start with body. And let me see if I have my little timer here. And we are going to start right now. So what you want to do is start brainstorming about body, health, nutrition, diet. I always like to set targets like an end goal, like if you want to diet and get in shape, you might want to set a goal of like running a 5K, doing a half marathon, doing a marathon. That would maybe be a yearly or half year goal. If you do and accomplish the marathon, what else is going to happen? Your nutrition will probably be pretty good. Your workouts are going to be good. Your sleep will be good. You might be stretching. So you're going to get the benefits of a lot of other things by accomplishing that end goal. And it gives you something to get excited about, motivated about. Losing 10 pounds this quarter, is that exciting to you? I want to lose 10 pounds. That's great. Everybody wants to lose 10 pounds. But what could you do that would be exciting for you where the result would be that you lost 10 pounds? You improved your eating. Next week, we are doing a fast mimicking diet by Dr. Longo. I don't know if you've ever read it, but we do this 4 times a year. It's called the fast mimicking diet. And you don't have to completely fast, and you get the benefits of fasting. So that's something my wife and I do. Some of my kids do it every single quarter. That's one of our health targets. My body target to share with you is I work out with Peloton. I have for about 3 years now. I ride a lot, and it worked out great for the virus being at home. But my target for this next 90 days is to do 180 Peloton workouts. So I want to do 180 workouts over 90 days. That's 2 workouts a day, right? So either stretching, strength, bike, whatever. For me, that gets me excited because in Peloton, they have challenges and different things I can join and participate in for me. So until my tennis gets back next year, that's my body target. So just brainstorm. We're not picking anything yet. Unless you know what it is, you can pick it. You want to brainstorm. If you're done brainstorming, you want to pick the top 3 items across your body that excite you the most. You want to pick up the top 3. Pick out the top 3, just circle them. We're going to do this for each category, and then your homework will be for you to decide on one of those, really decide on one of those and commit to it for the quarter. Okay, so you should have done body. Now we're going to go to being. This is the spiritual side of your life. All right. So you got 3 minutes on being. Go. I'll talk while you're brainstorming. So being could be anything, right? It could be a Bible study if you go to church. It could be attending church once a week as a family. It could be volunteer work. It could be reading a spiritual book, taking a spiritual course, meditating. I meditate twice a day. It's taken me 25 years to get to just doing that short meditation twice a day. I've fallen on and off the meditation bandwagon so much I can't count. So it's finally become a habit for me. I do something called breath work, Wim Hof breath work every single day. For me, it is spiritual. For me, the Wim Hof breath work is one of the most transformational things that I have ever done for myself in my life. And now I have my kids doing it, my wife doing it. So my challenge for being is to do a 10-week Wim Hof fundamentals course. And Wim Hof is about breath work, cold exposure, meditation, stretching, things of that nature. So that's my target. For you, it could be taking a silent walk each day, just taking 5 or 10 minutes of being still, memorizing a Bible scripture. You know, I participate, do a Bible study every morning. That helps me and keeps me on track. So figure out for you from a spiritual perspective. Doesn't have to be a church related. It could be, you know, if you're not a church going person, it could be a lot of different things for you. So it could be a retreat, could be a long weekend off, whatever it is for you. So brainstorm, write it down, circle your top 3 things. And if you're taking a course, my suggestion to you would not be just take the course. Once you take the course, teach the course to your family. Teach it to your family. So if they're not involved and you take a 5-week meditation course, or you take a 5-week studying the book of Galatians in the Bible or whatever it is, take the course and then teach the course. And that's how you really learn this stuff, is by teaching. So keep going. If you're interested in the breath work, just Google this guy. The app is free. It's all free. You can get a ton of free training from Wim Hof. You can do holotropic breathing. There's all different types of breath work you can do. All right, so let's move over to balance or relationships. Go. So depending where you're at with your relationships, there's I typically, for my wife, like to do a weekly date night, right? Uh, you know, when our children all went off to college and left, you know, it was almost like we had to get to know each other again, right? Because we'd been raising these kids and everything was about the kids. And we have throughout the years taken a lot of, you know, taken trips and gone off on our own and spent some time alone, which was good. But once the kids went, you know, it was adjustment for us. So, and then they moved back in. So we have one getting out of nursing school, her second degree, that finally is getting a job and will be out again. And we've been lucky enough to have our other daughter and 3 grandkids living with us for the last month. You talk about stressful and changing up your daily routine, and they are moving to their new home tomorrow. So I'm going to have a lot more time on my hands once the 3 little grandkids are out of the house. So what can you do around relationships? There's a date night, there's trips you can take with your wife, or significant other. You can spend time with your children. Maybe there's some relationships you need to repair. You know, maybe there's some relationships that you need to reach out to this quarter and reestablish. Maybe you need to widen your circle of friends, right? The friends you're currently hanging out with are not the type of people that are giving you the support you need or challenging you and stretching you to grow in the areas that you need to grow in. You know, what's the old saying that Jim Rome said? You're a combination of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So, you know, if you're the sharpest person in your group, I would suggest you get a new group, right? It might feel good for a while, but you're not being stretched. You know, when I play tennis with someone, I'm one of the better players in our area, but there's several that are better than me. And when I play, I want to play with someone better than myself. Now, I lose a lot, but I get better, right? And when it comes to tournaments and competitions, I will realize the benefit of playing that better player. So, what can you do around balance with your significant other to deepen your relationship? Could you take a workshop together? Could you go to a retreat together? Could you do something as a family more often? What could you do? One big thing that you could do this quarter to deepen those relationships. Circle the top 3. Okay, so now you have 3 items across these 3 dimensions, right? If you know what your one thing, it just shot out to you and you just said, this is it. This is what I want to do this quarter. This is my spiritual being category item. This is my relationship item. This is my body item. I'm doing it. Fine, then you're done. You've got your targets, right? Now that you have the targets, the work is just beginning, okay? But let's talk about business. Now, we don't have time to go through everything across the business domain today, but I'm going to give you the 3 minutes to jot down ideas around business. Everything in the first 3 dimensions fuels your business, and it works the other way around. Your business fuels the other 3 dimensions. If you are living and creating a successful business, it gives you the revenue or the currency to do things, enjoy things in the other 3 areas, right? So that is a foundational thing for me, is to grow my business, because I am at a place in my life where I want to leave a legacy, right? I want to create something that I can leave to my family, my children. You know, I've been blessed enough to do pretty well in this world, but I want to create a legacy of not just money, but a legacy of memories, right? And opportunities that I can give to them to expand and grow and be the best that they can be. So business is feeding the other 3. The other 3 are feeding your business. And when all 4 are in sync, your life is in a wonderful, wonderful place. So when you think about business, you want to think about probably the obvious areas, right? So if my annual goal was 1 million in revenue, or your annual goal was 300 new merchant accounts, I don't know, whatever your annual target was, right? So business, you want to break it down and see, hey, am I on track for that target? What are the adjustments that I need to make? And where is the low-hanging fruit, right? And typically, it's in one of these 3 areas: sales and marketing. This could be your lead gen, your advertising, your closing, your sales process, your landing pages, your funnels, your outsourcing, your telemarketing, whatever you're doing, right? Or it could be across operations. Maybe you need to improve fulfillment and customer service and areas of operations to make your company better. Maybe you need to put some auditing in place. Maybe you need to activate a higher percentage of the accounts that you're writing. Whatever that is for you is what you need to find out, right? So we want to find the low hanging fruit across your business. And that's where I would spend my time in this fourth quarter, right? Unless you have an initiative that you are working on that you've already had in place, and that initiative is going to have a domino effect on your business. So, once that domino falls over, it affects a lot of other dominoes in your business, right? And that's what we're trying to do. When we think of these big quarterly targets, we're not thinking of little stuff that we're doing on a weekly basis. We're thinking of something big that's going to move the needle in your business. So if you revamped your entire lead generation where you went from 25 leads a month to 100 leads a month, how would that impact your business, right? I mean, it would quadruple your opportunities, and it would give you the opportunity to grow, expand, hire people, board more merchants, sell more cash discounting deals, point of sale deals, payment gateways, whatever you sell, consumer financing, working capital. That one item would have a lot of ROI on your business, right? So try to think about, when you're thinking about business, what's the one big thing I can do this quarter that's going to get me to my yearly goal, and it's going to have a domino effect on the rest of my business and my company, right? So that's what you want to start thinking from that context. And let me set the timer and let's go. So if you think about just sales in general, maybe you could revamp your processes, your sales flow. Maybe you could close differently. Maybe your marketing needs to be revamped. Maybe you need to put them in some autoresponders, some drip campaigns, some text campaigns. Maybe your lead gen could be revamped, right? Your advertising. Maybe you go to social media more than direct calling. Maybe you outsource some direct calling to generate leads. Maybe you buy leads. Maybe you buy trigger leads, UCC leads, new business connections, new phone connections, new domain registrations, new liquor licenses. I mean, it goes on and on and on. Maybe you get involved in local networking, BNI virtual groups, or chamber of commerce groups, or trade association deals. Maybe you start to work with local banks and create agent banking programs. Maybe you improve your closing ratio, right? Now you're closing 15%, you improve your skill set, your process, you're closing 25 or 30%. Maybe you move to some higher margin products like cash discounting or consumer lending, which I work in, and consumer finance and point of sale finance. Maybe you sell more business lending products or point of sale systems that are stickier, and you add online and contactless and all the things that we're dealing with today in the current market. So, there's all types of things you can do from the sales and advertising area. Or if that's locked in for you, maybe it's more, I'm going to cross sell, right? You board the merchant, they're happy, fulfillment goes well, deployment goes well, they're installed. Maybe you need to implement a cross-selling strategy once they're boarded, right? Maybe you need to implement a strategy to reduce attrition, right? A monthly newsletter that you can send out, a postcard you can send out, a monthly call that you can send out, Maybe there's a process when they call in to cancel that you can work up and do that. So, you know, one thing that I'm doing just to share with you is we are looking at all our processes, and I have hired virtual assistants. I have a friend that is president of a virtual assistant company, and we did this in Bankcard Life in our member area. I interviewed him. If you want to go back and watch that interview, a guy named Dean Soto. So I'm currently running and working 4 different companies. We've got lots of different things going on. I do this training stuff kind of for fun, some writing and things of that nature, but I have other businesses that I spend a lot of time in. And there are a lot of things that we're doing from a system perspective and a process perspective that are duplicatable, that I could have a virtual assistant doing rather than one of my employees, right? So we just engaged one of Dean's virtual assistants, and we're walking through and have been working on this about 6 weeks now, all the processes that we can document, and they will document them for us. So all we have to do is a little video. Here's how we look up a customer and send out an activation email, or here's how we change a customer's bank account, or, you know, here's how we answer this from a customer, or here's how we board a new sales partner. Here's how we go into the CRM and make sure the list is updated. Whatever it is for you, and you might be small enough where you can't afford this, but this guy charges $9.50 an hour. So I have a full-time employee now that they will document our processes, where I can have this person at this cost structure doing the day-to-day things that are easily duplicatable, and we have a lot of them in our business. And then I can have my higher paid employees working on things that generate revenue, right? So depending where you're at in the life cycle of your business and where you want to go, there might be a lot of processes, and you can hire one of these part-time. You know, 20 hours a week is what, 200 a week? And they can be the one answering all the customer service emails, or sending out follow-ups, or reaching out to people on LinkedIn, or sending out follow-up emails. There's so many things. When I made the list of items that we were doing that I could load off to this VA, you know, I may end up with 2 or 3 of them. I don't know. So think through from business, pick your top 3, and you should be good to go on your body, your being, your balance, and your business. You have your top 3, and then what you want to do is narrow that down to one big target for this next Q4, right? So that's where you're at. If you need more time, that can be your homework, and you can work on clarifying those 4 targets, realizing I want those 4 targets, not for somebody else, not for other reasons, for me and my business. These 4 targets are going to move the needle for me. They're going to move the needle around my spirituality, my relationship with the people most important to me, my health, my body, and my business. So oftentimes when we set targets, though, we confront obstacles, right? So what I like to do after I set the targets is I want to think about what are the potential obstacles that I might confront. So if one of my obstacles is I want to do these workouts across my body, what could be an obstacle that confronts me, right? It might be time, might be like now I have a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 1.5-year-old running around my house at 6 o'clock in the morning, right? So how do I deal with that obstacle? How do I take the time for myself to get that workout in, or take that time to accomplish it? So you need to think through these obstacles, and then you need to come up with a solution or response to the potential obstacle, right? So if my big target is to revamp my whole marketing campaign, what could be some of my obstacles? Like finding the right outsourcer, taking the time every week, if I'm going to do it myself, to learn how to run Facebook ads, getting the revenue, setting aside the money to pay an outsourcer to do it. whatever the obstacles are for you. So try to come up with what the obstacle might be and what your solution to that obstacle would be. So when it hits you, it's not out of the blue. It's coming. You knew it was coming, and you have a solution to deal with that obstacle. Okay? So we got 2 more steps. We are getting towards the end here. So what I do after I set those targets, and it's great. Now we've got targets, right? It's wonderful. We have targets. A lot of people can set goals and targets. That's the easy part, right? Realizing and hitting the target is the hard part. So we have targets. What we want to do now is, what would be the cost if I have my targets? What is the cost of not achieving the target? So what's the cost? And what we want to do is we want to find the pain and feel the pain if we don't achieve this target, right? What happens to me if I don't hit this target? What's the cost, not just to me, what's the cost to my family, the cost to my children, the cost to my business? What's the cost to my health if I don't hit the target I've set around my body, my energy? What's the cost to my relationships if I don't hit the target around balance? What if I don't take, maybe your balance is to read to your kids 30 minutes before bed every night. You know, what am I going to lose in my relationships with my children if I don't take that time and spend that one-on-one time with them or read to them? That's something they'll remember the rest of their lives, right? What's the cost in our relationships? What's my spiritual connectedness going to suffer if I don't hit this target across my being, right? And then most important, not most important, take that back, it's not most important, but very important, what if I don't hit the targets across my business, right? Because the business generates the income that fuels the life, right? That gives you the independence, the freedom, the revenue to live the life that you want. What's the cost if I don't hit those targets? What if I don't revamp my sales and marketing and I continue doing the same thing that I'm doing, getting the same results that I'm getting? And sure, I might be doing good. You might be doing really well. You might have a 10 or 15 or $20,000 a month residual. Maybe your target isn't to expand and grow. Maybe it's to keep or solidify your revenue stream and keep that money coming in at the level that it is. That's fine, right? Or maybe you're in growth mode. 20,000, it's not the 20,000 going to 30,000. That doesn't excite me personally. But what would getting to 30,000 a month do for your family, your life, and loved ones, right? Could you put, 100,000 away for college for your kids? Could you leave a legacy? Could you donate more? Could you give more to your church? Could you support more things that you want to support, right? So we really want to move from good to great to elite. And elite, in my mind, is the top 1%. So that's the goal. We may not hit it, but at least we're striving towards that goal. And even if we come up a little bit short, we're going to yield the benefit of having that commitment to be elite. So this is where you internalize the cost, and you know what happens, you feel what happens if you don't hit it. And then you make the commitment. And you can make the commitment to your wife and your family across this being. You can share it with them, make a public commitment. And then most importantly, you're going to make an internal commitment to yourself, right? This is who I am going to become. This is who I am going to be. I'm not going to stop until I achieve these targets. I'm going to do everything in my control. You can't control what happens outside of you, but you can do everything in your control, and you can take a stand for yourself, and you can take a stand for the results that you are committed to, right? And what we want to do is write all this stuff down, and we want to put it on our tracking system. So let's pop back over. And let's go back to our PowerPoint. So we made the commitment. We've internalized the cost, and we stand in a place now where we're ready to start deploying the tactics and the actions of what we've just done, right? And here's what I used to do years ago. I'd sit down and do these goals. I'd even do it with my family. I've got goals back to the 90s, right? And we started out doing them yearly. And it turns out we'd look at them on January 1st as a family, maybe for a few days, make some note cards, and within a week we didn't even look at them again until next year, right? I don't know if any of you have done that, but what I like about quarterly is we crunch it down, and we're in this game of creating these targets every quarter, and then I'm reviewing these quarterly targets every single week when you set up your system, right? So when you set up your system for production and you use a tool, it can be an online tool, a tracker, whatever you want. We have the Bankcard Life Planner. This is free. Just go to this URL, bankcardlife.com/planner, right? It's a Google Sheet. And I'm not going to go through this. We don't have time, but you can set up your 90-day outcomes here. So here's your body, your being, your balance, and your business. You can set up your weekly targets, your quarterly targets, and each week you can review yourself, and then you can track your habits if you want. You know, maybe this quarter I'm going to get up early and I'm going to do my meditation. I'm going to do my prayer work. I'm going to set my intention for the day. I'm going to have a green smoothie. I'm going to journal. I'm going to read 10 pages, whatever it is. I'm going to check in with my kids and spouse daily. I'm going to text them text of encouragement so they have a great day. I'm going to turn my phone off before bed. I'm going to work out, walk, bike, yoga, whatever, attend church once a week. So these are for you. These are just examples. You might have affirmations. You might have scripture or prayers. You might have fun goal achievements this quarter that maybe aren't solid targets, but they're things you want to do. Maybe you want to read some books this quarter, right? Atomic Habits is a good one. I'd recommend that one for sure. And lots of other ones you can stick in there. So what you do is start to track this, and then you can give yourself a weekly rating when you do your weekly review, and it will add it up for you on a nice little chart. You can do your weekly review. That's a whole nother process that we have recorded back there. And then you can set your weekly big target each week and the things associated with that big target. So that's the work, right? That's when we get into the production each and every day. And I'm sure all of you have your own little system that you're using. If you're getting results from that system, there's no reason to change it, no reason to do anything any differently than what you're doing now that you have your targets. So we're about to close out. I just want to thank you for attending today. I hope this was valuable for you. I hope you got some clarity. I hope you have some ideas on strategy, and I hope you have some tactics that you can deploy. And it really comes down to, you know, who do you need to become to hit these quarterly targets, right? To hit the annual target. And I hope you've set targets that stretch yourself, right? It's really easy to set a quarterly target around something you're already doing, right? That doesn't stretch you or your family or your team or your business, right? So, you know, who do you need to become to hit these targets? What does that person's life, not like, look like? But, you know, somebody that does the things that you've set up, what does their life look like? What time do they get up? What are their habits? Who do they hang out with? What do they do on a daily basis? Do they sit and watch Netflix 4 hours a night? I don't think so. You know, what do they do in order to hit these goals and targets that they've set for themselves? And how are they showing up in the world, right? And it's just a process, right? We're never going to arrive. This is a lifelong process of really improving and uncovering every little layer about ourselves and getting better and growing. Sometimes we step forward, sometimes we take a few steps back, and then we go forward and back, and we do that over and over again for years. And then hopefully you get to a point where you take 5 steps forward, one back, 5 steps forward, one back, and you start to realize the fruits of your labor, your mindset, your thinking, and the actions, and you have some disciplines that you've put into place that are getting you the results that you want in your life. So how do you need to show up? What do you need to become? What would your life look like if you became this person? So thank you for attending today. I'm going to put, if you're not a member of Bankcard Life, follow me on Instagram. I put a lot of posts up there, a lot of free content. Please follow it at Bankcard Life. Would love to have you. And I just thank you. I hope you have the best quarter ever. And I'm happy if you're a member, chat me, text me, whatever. I'm happy to help you out if you've got questions or need some clarity around this process for yourself. So have a great day, and we will see you soon. For those of you that put your emails in, we'll email you the PDF of this process. So you'll have that available to you. And of course, you can go to bankcardlife.com/planner and pick up the planner for free. It's a Google Doc. Just save it into your Google Drive or download it, and you'll have access to that planner. So have a great day, everybody. We will talk to you soon.